Hey everybody, tarekith here, and today we're going to be looking at the Wave 8 speakers from Alpha Theta. For those of you that don't know, Alpha Theta is the parent company of Pioneer DJ, and recently has been releasing products a little outside the normal DJ realm under their own brand name, namely the Omnis Duo, a little portable standalone DJ controller, these Wave 8 speakers, and more recently a high-end analog mixer for DJs. To give you a little bit of background about why I chose these Wave 8 speakers, even though I already have some QSC K12.2s that I normally use, had a chance to go on a bit of a camping trip out in the middle of nowhere with some friends and family and some neighbors. They asked me to do some DJing and some live sets at night, and so I needed something kind of battery powered. We're going to be far off the grid. For those of you that follow my channel, you know I like to make music out in the woods, and for a long time I was using this as a portable speaker. It's a Denon Envato portable speaker, much louder than you would think. Great bass, great low end, probably the best sounding little tiny speaker I've found after extensive looking. And the best thing for me at the time was it had a 1/8 inch input, hardwired input, so I could connect gear to it and not have to worry about Bluetooth latency and things like that. But clearly this isn't really this is just for me to play in the woods and stuff like that. It's not really gonna work for playing for other people, so I needed to find another option. Thanks to the Refurb store on Amazon, I was able to pick up one of these. This is a JBL Boombox 3. I have to admit, I was actually very impressed with this. It's fully dustproof, fully waterproof. You can actually throw it in the lake if you want to. It sounds really good. The low end on this is actually amazing for the size, and it also has an 1/8 inch input. Unfortunately for me, what I didn't realize was there's still some DSP going on the 1/8 inch input, the hardwired input. So I was getting quite a bit of latency, which made it completely unusable for DJing. Which is a shame, because otherwise this is so nice and portable. It's a 20-pound unit, but the sound quality out of this was actually much better than I was expecting. And I think for most small outdoor gatherings, it would have worked great if it wouldn't have been for that DSP issue on the hardwired input. So the next thing I tried was a Soundbox Go, which I don't have here. I'll put a picture of it here on screen in a second. It was a pretty pricey unit. I believe it was $700 for one speaker. Very loud speaker though, extreme amounts of low end. It was actually impressive how much low end and how much volume you could get out of that little box. Unfortunately, that's the only thing really positive I can say about how it sounded. It just was very harsh. I had to turn it up almost all the way, which is ear-splittingly loud just to get kind of a nice balanced sound. It's the kind of thing you could only really use outdoors if you're throwing big outdoor parties. I wanted something a little more flexible that I wouldn't use just once or twice a year. I could use indoors for other things as well, and that speaker for me at least was just totally unusable on that front. If you're doing techno parties out in the middle of the woods, it's a great option. The battery life is phenomenal and the low end is killer, but overall sound quality on that was just pretty poor for me. Very little mid-range definition. The highs were piercing, the lows were totally overpowering. If I was off my head on drugs dancing in the woods, it'd probably be great, but for something more subtle and nuanced, it just wasn't fitting the bill, so that had to go back. So then I jumped up to the Alpha Theta Wave 8. I bought one initially, and was so happy with it I bought a second one not long after. These are battery powered speakers. You get about 8 hours of battery life on it, a little less if you're running them full tilt, but at about 70 to 80% power output, I'd say 8 hours is pretty accurate. Takes about 4 hours to recharge if they're not running. If you have them plugged in and you're using them while you're recharging them, it's about 6 hours. The other big thing about these is that they are completely wireless. So in addition to being battery powered, they also have their own proprietary technology for low latency wireless streaming. I believe they call it Sonic Link. Each speaker has a built-in transmitter. It's removable. There's a little USB charging cable in there. So this is the transmitter. Very small, very lightweight, just a simple stereo RCA input, and then a power and pairing button combo to pair it to whatever speaker you're using. And it works great. The Sonic Link technology is very low latency. It's perfect for DJing. I have no problems with it whatsoever. If you're used to Bluetooth stuff, this is a total game changer as far as that goes. The latency was almost non-existent, which is awesome. The pairing process as well was pretty easy. Basically, you plug this into your DJ controller or your music equipment, whatever you're using. Press the pairing button on this, press the pairing button on the speaker itself, and usually within a second or two it'll find it. And then if you can run multiple speakers, you can run more than 2 of these speakers all wirelessly connected. You just pair, I forget what they call it, like sonic transfer or something, a transfer button that sends a signal from one speaker to the next. You just press that on each successive speaker and they'll find each other. I will admit the first time I tried this pairing process, I couldn't get anything to pair up. It just wasn't working, and I couldn't figure out why. In the manual, there's a procedure that they tell you how to reset the speaker and just erase like all your stored Bluetooth settings and all your stored sonic link settings. So I did that, and then it paired perfectly. And I've had no issues since then. So other than that initial teething problem, the pairing process has been great. One of the nice things about it too is that once you've gone through that pairing and you've paired the transmitter to the speakers and you've got them all configured, which ones are left, which ones are right, and all that, it actually remembers that. So when you turn everything back on in the future, like you don't have to go through the pairing process. Everything finds itself and sets itself up the way it was, which is pretty awesome. So very, very easy to use. These speakers are about 28 pounds each, not light, but very, very durable. Hard plastic shell, metal grills on the woofer. There is very little protection on the tweeters, as I'm sure maybe you've seen. There's just a simple little bar, metal bar across here, which is kind of a shame because it is a soft tone tweeter, but I baby my gear and I don't plan on taking around small kids with sharp objects or anything like that. So for me, at least, it's not been a problem whatsoever. Something to be aware of, if you're taking this in rougher environments, or you've got kids, pets, things like that like to poke things, these might not be the speakers for you. What else? You have a handle on top, a very comfortable handle, I have to say. Handle on the side. You have a pole mount on the bottom. There's also wheels on the back, on the bottom, and then a telescoping handle, so you can roll these behind you to take them to places. I know some people have said that they found it kind of wobbly when rolling it on the wheels, and yeah, if you go in a corner kind of fast and aren't paying attention, it's just like luggage, it'll rock back and forth a bit, but for the most part, I really had no problems with it and find it very convenient. I can just put my Omnis Duo in my Magma case over my shoulder and then just wheel these behind me and take them wherever I need to go, and it's very simple, and I really appreciate having those wheels on there. 30 pounds isn't heavy, but I'm getting older, so anything to save my back is always useful. But yeah, so let's take a look at the back. I'll show you the connections, some of the controls, talk a little bit about how you can set things up, and then we'll do our recap as usual, and I'll let you know what I think. Thanks. Okay, so here we are looking at the back of the speaker a little closer. Go left to right, you have your power button turned on and off. It's got a volume knob. These go quite loud. I've been no worries with that whatsoever. The first button here is your Sonic Link button. This is what you're going to press and hold to pair it with the transmitter, and it'll light up solid once it's slid up. Once you've paired one speaker with the transmitter, then you're going to press this Sonic Link, or this, I forget what they call it. Basically, it's how you connect it to other speakers, either if you're connecting over Bluetooth or with the Sonic Link technology. You can press and hold that, and it'll search for another speaker. Then it's also got a dedicated Bluetooth button as well. So if you want to just connect your phone to it over Bluetooth, nice and simple, you can hold the Bluetooth button and do it that way as well. And it'll flash, let you know it's in pairing mode. Next up, we have your channel selector. Each speaker can be set to left, to right, or to both, and run it in mono. One thing to be aware of, the mono is summed, so if you're going to run it in mono, it's going to be louder than just left or right. Not an issue in most use cases, but just something to be aware of. Then you have your sound mode selector switch. So we have full range music, which is what most people are going to use. That's your standard, if you're a DJ, if you're playing like a live set, you can leave it in that. You've got music low cut. And this is if you're going to use one of these paired as a subwoofer. There's a subwoofer setting at the bottom here. You'd set that on one and set the other speakers to music low cut. It's got a flat setting, which is basically a little less hype on the highs and the lows. Personally, I think the music setting on its own was fairly decent for most people's uses. I don't know why you'd really need a flat, but you also have a flat low cut as well if you're going to be in subwoofer mode. And then finally, there's a vocal mode. So if you're going to use this for like presentations or things like that, there's an option for that. There is no onboard EQ. There's no app. There's no way to customize the sound of this. Overall, I found it very balanced, though. Even in just the music mode, which is your kind of party mode, hyped bass, hype highs. But even that sounded really good. So I haven't really missed a equalizer whatsoever on this so far. In addition to that, we have a little compartment back here. This is where I can store my power cable to charge it. There's a charging port. Here, let's see if we can. There we go. There's a charging port down here you plug that into. Again, lightly weather sealed. Okay, so here we are with a closer view of this little storage compartment in the back. Like I said, I like it because you can store the cables inside there where you're not using them. You don't have to worry about losing those. You have an 1/8 inch aux input. There's a power management functionality, so it'll turn off after 20 minutes of not detecting a signal. You can turn that on or off. It's got inputs for mic or balanced line inputs as well as you have mic low EQ, high EQ, and there's a built-in echo effect as well, which is nice. Dry vocals can sound a little unappealing. As well, you also have a mic level input and a 1/4-inch balanced mic input as well. And then finally, if you want to daisy chain these over hardware and not rely on the wireless technology, there's a line out. So you can go line out to line in, line out to line in, and chain a bunch of these speakers up together. Finally, the last thing is there's a USB-C output as well. So because this has such a big battery in it, if you're somewhere need to charge your phone, you can actually just plug your phone into the speaker and use the battery speaker to charge your phone or any other USB-C device. As long as it doesn't draw too much power. So overall pretty flexible compared to say like the Soundbox Go, which basically has like an 1/8-inch input and that's about it. This is way more flexible for me, so you don't have to use these just as wireless speakers or battery powered speakers. You can plug them in, you can plug them in for the audio connections, and even, like I said, USB charging other devices, which is handy if you're out in the middle of nowhere, which is where you would probably usually be using a battery powered speaker. So that's it for the connections. Let's go back and I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, so that was a closer look at the Wave 8 speaker connections and all the options on the back of the speaker. What do I think about it? First and foremost, I'm really happy with the sound quality. My biggest concern coming from like the Soundbox speaker I had previously was just something that was not harsh. I didn't have to run full out to get the best sound quality out of, and these haven't disappointed. They are a little bright, just like a lot of loudspeakers are. When you're outdoors, those speakers need to compensate for the fact that those high frequencies kind of dissipate in open spaces. So outdoors, not really a problem. If you're going to use this indoors, it is a touch bright. It's been no problem for me. I've got them on speaker stands about this close to my head, for practicing DJing at home. It hasn't been a problem, but just something to be aware of. It's not the kind of thing you're going to produce music on. But for playing music out, I think they sound fantastic, which is great because, like I said, they don't have built-in EQ at all. So very happy with that. The portability functionality has been amazing. The battery life is longer than I expected. The pairing process, other than the very first time I tried it, which I had problems with, has been flawless. I like the fact that once you pair everything up and go through that process, you don't have to worry about it again. You just turn everything on and it finds itself and everything speaks to each other the way it should be. Speakers remember which one is left, which one is right, all that kind of fun stuff. Downsides of these speakers, the price, they are pretty expensive for the size speaker they are and the overall volume. Don't get me wrong, these are very loud speakers. They have great bass, they have great low end. I would have no problems DJing a party with these. I think you could easily fill like an outdoor space for like 100 or 200 people with just these speakers. You're not going to get monstrous lows like you would with dedicated subwoofers, but the fact you could use more of these just as subs if you want to is a nice option. A pretty expensive option, but you have that if you need to go fully battery powered and wireless. One of the other things I liked about this speaker that I didn't quite expect was that when I do my live shows and when I DJ here in town, I have some QSC K12.2 speakers that I use, and I usually use in-ear monitors for my monitoring, but if you use in-ears, they're nice. I like them for a lot of reasons, but one of the downsides is you get like a lot of isolation from what's going on around you, like other people or just like the sound of the room, So I've always wanted to have separate monitors that were easy to carry and transport, just never really could justify it. But in my last show, I actually tried these as floor wedges. They are angled a little bit. I do wish they're angled a little more. But they worked out great, especially because they are all cable free for the most part. I could take this transmitter, hook it up to my front of house mixer, send the booth output to these speakers on the floor, and I could just place them wherever I wanted, and I didn't have to worry about people tripping on cables. There's no power cables, there's no audio cables. They're really easy to position wherever I want. Like I said, you don't have to worry about any of that. If people want to come up and see what you're doing, you're not worried about somebody stepping on something and killing the sound of your monitors. Or even, if you're playing in a slightly bigger room than you normally do, you can set one of these up in the corners further away. You can add fills all wirelessly and not have to worry about it. It's just running cables or running audio cables or snakes or things like that. So it's pretty handy. One of the slight downsides to the wireless aspect, you can get quite a bit of range on these. I think I've gotten over like 150 feet when I tested it, but you have to remain within line of sight. Trees and shrubs in the way didn't seem to affect it too much, but like you couldn't put it around the corner of a building. Your signal will drop off pretty quickly that way. So that's one thing to be aware of. The wireless transmission range is pretty far, much farther than they spec out on the Alpha Theta website. But again, you have to be line of sight to get that. So probably not a problem for most people, but something I would bring up. And then the only kind of really downside, well, I guess two more downsides. One is I wish there was a little more protection on the tweeter. For my use cases, it's not going to be a big deal, I don't think. I baby my gear, and there's no kids poking at it or anything like that, so I don't think it'd be too much of a problem for me, but definitely would have been nice if they were a little bit more robust protection as far as that goes. And then the other problem for me is that the fact they're not dust resistant, at least as far as the manufacturer claims. I think I said before they're only IPX4 rated, so they are splash proof. But Alpha Theta says they're not dust proof. Again, I'm going to maybe use these in the desert, so that was possibly a concern, but the more I've had these out and used them and played with them, I think they're sealed enough that won't really be a big problem with me, as long as I don't just leave them out overnight if I'm not using them. So just one thing to be aware of, if you splash something on these, shouldn't be a problem. I think light dust or whatever would be fine. If you're taking these to Burning Man for 10 days, you might want to find some way to protect them a little better than what they are right now. So anyway, that's my review of the Alpha Theta Wave 8 speakers. I'm very happy with them for the most part. Yes, they were expensive, but I haven't found anything else that really hit all the different criteria I needed of being wireless, of having hardwired inputs if I need them, being battery powered with decent battery life, and just sounding really, really good. And these have hit all those marks for me, so I don't regret it whatsoever, especially now that I can use them as floor monitors for my live shows if I want to, or even just bring these with for smaller parties. I know next week I'm doing a small DJ party, and I don't really need to bring a whole bunch of gear with. I can just bring these, a stand, and my Omnis Duo, and I'm good to go. So less gear to transport and set up is always a good thing when you're playing out. So anyway, hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. Put them in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you for the next one. Thanks.